Oh, hi there. Welcome back to another edition of Moony Real Reads. Some good coffee. Okay. Chapter 4. Why Humanity Will Never Master Technology. Humanity does not exist. There are only humans, driven by conflicting needs and illusions, and subject to every kind of infirmity, of will and judgment. At present, there are nearly 200 sovereign states in the world. Most are unstable, isolating between weak democracy and weak tyranny. Many are rusted through with corruption, are controlled by organized crime, whole regions of the world. Much of Africa, Southern Asia, Russia, the Balkans, and the Caucasus, and parts of South America are strewn with corroded or collapsed states. At the same time, the world's most powerful states, the United States, China, Japan, will not accept any fundamental limitation on their sovereignty. They are jealous of their freedom of action, if only because they have been enemies in the past and know they may become so again in the future. Yet, it is not the number of sovereign states that makes technology ungovernable. It is technology itself. The ability to design new viruses for use in genocidal weapons does not require enormous resources of money, plant, or equipment. New technologies of mass destruction are cheap. The knowledge they embody is free. It is impossible to prevent them becoming ever more easily available. Bill Joy, one of the pioneers of the new information technologies, has written thus: the 21st century technologies, genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics are so powerful that they can spawn whole new classes of accidents and abuses. Most dangerously, for the first time, these accidents and abuses are widely within the reach of individuals or small groups. They will not require large facilities or rare raw materials. Knowledge alone will enable the use of them. Thus, we have the possibility not just of weapons of mass destruction, but of knowledge-enabled mass destruction, KMD. This destructiveness hugely amplified by the power of self-replication. In part, governments have created this situation. By ceding so much control over new technology to the marketplace, they have concluded in their own powerlessness. Nevertheless, the proliferation of new tech weapons of mass destruction is not in a result of errors in policy. It is a consequence of the diffusion of knowledge. Controls on technology cannot be enforced. The genetic modification of crops, animals, or humans may be forbidden in some countries, but it will go ahead in others. The world's powers can pledge that genetic engineering will have only benign uses, but it can be only a matter of time before it is used for purposes of war. Perhaps the world's most unstable states can be prevented from acquiring nuclear capability. But how can biological weapons be kept out of the hands of forces no government controls? If anything about the present century is certain, it is that the power conferred on humanity by new technologies will be used to commit atrocious crimes against it. If it becomes possible to clone human beings, Soldiers will be bred in whom normal human emotions are stunned or absent. Genetic engineering may enable age-old diseases to be eradicated. At the same time, it is likely to be the technology of choice in future genocides. Those who ignore the destructive potential of new technologies can do so only because they ignore history. Pogroms are as old as Christendom, but without railways, the telegraph, and poison gas, there could have been no Holocaust. There have always been tyrannies, but without modern means of transport and communication. Stalin and Mao could not have built their gulags. Humanity's worst crimes were made possible only by modern technology. There is a deeper reason why humanity will never control technology. Technology is not something that humankind can control. It is an event that has befallen the world. Once a technology enters human life, whether it be fire, the will, the automobile, radio, television, or the internet, it changes it in ways we can never fully understand. Cars may have been invented to make moving about easier, but they soon came to be embodiments of forbidden desires. According to Ilchik, the model American puts in 1,600 hours to get 7,500 miles, less than 5 miles an hour. Not much, not much more than could travel on its own feet, which is more important today. The use of cars as means of transportation, or their use as expressions of our unconscious yearnings for personal freedom, sexual release, and the final liberation of sudden death. Let me reread that. Excuse me. It is a bit difficult reading out loud, reading for extended periods of time. I'm not used to it. Which is more important today? The use of cars as a means of transportation, or their use as expressions of our unconscious yearnings for personal freedom, sexual release, and the final liberation of sudden death? Nothing is more commonplace than the lament that moral progress has failed to keep pace with scientific knowledge. If only we were more intelligent or more moral, we could use technology only for benign ends. The fault is not in our tools, we say, but in ourselves. In one sense, this is true. Technical progress leaves only one problem unsolved: a frailty of human nature. Unfortunately, that problem is insoluble. And that was chapter 4 of Straw Dogs by John Gray. Chapter 5, Green Humanism. Green thinkers understand that humans can never be masters of the earth, yet in their Luddite struggle against technology, they renew the illusion that the world can be made the instrument of human purposes. Whatever they say, most green thinkers offer yet another version of humanism, not an alternative to it. Technology is not a human artifact. It is as old as life on Earth. As Brian J. Ford notes, It is found in the kingdom of insects. The industry undertaken by some leafcutter ants is close to farming. They excavate large underground nests which the colony inhabits. Workers go out foraging for leaves which they cut with their jaws and bring back to the nest. These leaves are used to grow colonies of fungi. Enzymes form which can digest the cellulose cell walls of the leaves and render them suitable for eating by the colony. The garden is vital for the ants' survival. Without the continuous forming and feeding of the fungal colonies, the ant colony is doomed. These ants are indulging in an agricultural enterprise which they systematically maintain. Cities are no more artificial than the hives of bees. The internet is as natural as spider's web. As Margulis and Sagan have written, Margulis and Sagan, have written, we ourselves technological devices invented by ancient bacterial communities as means of genetic survival. We are part of an intricate network that comes from the original bacterial takeover of the earth. Our powers and intelligence do not belong specifically to us, but all life. Thinking of our bodies as natural and of our technologies as artificial gives too much importance to the accident of our origins. If we are replaced by machines, we will be in an evolutionary shift, no different from that when bacteria combined to create our earliest ancestors. Humanism is a doctrine of salvation, the belief that humankind can take charge of its destiny. Among grains, where was I? Let's see. Thinking of our bodies as natural technologies, replaced by machines. If we are replaced by machines, it will be an evolutionary shift, no different than from that when bacteria combined to create our earliest ancestors. Humanism is a doctrine of salvation, the belief that humankind can take charge of its destiny. Among greens, this has become the ideal of humanity, becoming the wise steward of its planet resources. But for anyone whose hopes are not centered on their own species, the notion that human action can save themselves or the planet must be absurd. They know the upshot is not in human hands. They act as they do not out of the belief that they can succeed, but from an ancient instinct. For much of their history and all of prehistory, humans did not see themselves as being any different from the other animals among which they lived. Hunter-gatherers saw their prey as equals, if not superiors. The animals were worshipped as divinities in many traditional cultures. The humanist sense of a gulf between ourselves and other animals is an aberration. It is the animist feeling of belonging. Animist. Wow, they use that word? Animist. Hey Siri, what does animist mean? I did not realize that by saying, "Hey Siri," hey Siri, stop. Stop doing that. Stop cutting me off, Siri. I'm trying to read here. All right. For much of their history, all of prehistory, humans did not see themselves as being any different from the other animals among which they lived. Hunter-gatherers saw their prey as equals, if not superiors, and animals were worshipped as divinities in many traditional cultures. The humanist sense of a gulf between ourselves and other animals is an abbreviation. It is the animus feeling of belonging with the rest of nature that is normal. Feeble as it may be today, the feeling of sharing a common destiny with other living things is embedded in the human psyche. Those who struggle to conserve what is left of the human or of the environment are moved by the love of living things. Biophilia, the frail bond of feeling that ties humankind to the earth. The mass of mankind is ruled not by its intermediate moral sensations, still less by self-interest, but by the needs of the moment. It seems fated to wreck the balance of life on earth, and thereby to be the agent of its own destruction. What could be more hopeless than placing the earth in the charge of this exceptionally destructive species? It is not of becoming the planet's wise stewards that Earth lovers dream, but of a time when humans have ceased to matter. This guy is this guy is really, what's the word? Misanthropic, isn't he? He's really misanthropic. Oh, that was chapter 5. That was a short chapter. That was chapter 5, Green Humanism. Thanks for watching.